Welcome to the Global Real Estate and Entrepreneur Podcast. This is Nicole Forrester, real estate broker and professional financial planner. And I am just thrilled and delighted to be here today to introduce you to the man, the myth, the legend, Ronn James, real estate business coach. Yay! Thank you so much
Yay.
for coming today, Ronn.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm excited about this opportunity. Having, watched your format and your program and the information and intelligence that comes to market, it's timely. Like you're today.
Thank you. I appreciate you. And
Oh,
sir,
thank you.
40 plus years in the Toronto real estate market, surviving and thriving with those sharks, making them altruistic, riding those waves. You've been a coach for over 1,000 mortgage brokers and real estate brokers alike. You've seen so much. Please talk to the audience today about your journey in real estate.
Pretty much like I guess most people get into it. I couldn't get a real job, so I got a haircut and a real estate license, and here I am. Truly, it was. I saw an ad in the paper back in the day. A Century 21 office had offered to pay a $25,000 a year salary, which was twice what I was making in 1982,
Nice.
if I joined and followed the leader. Well, then I saw another ad that looked similar and visited the guy who was the recruiter for that particular real estate office because I had known him, and he turfed me out. I showed up at his office, and I was there for all of about 6 minutes, and he dismissed me. And I'm not somebody that gets dismissed really easy. So I knew there was other real estate offices in my former home city of Brampton. And I picked one randomly on a map and went, this is where I'm going to go. I showed up 4 times in one day because the broker of record was not in.
Nice.
And finally, I got a call, or excuse me, I went back to the office on my fourth visit, and the receptionist said, yeah, he's in. And he's in because she phoned him and said, you have to come and meet this kid. He's not going away. And I sat down, and this is a bit of a funny story. I did write a book on my first year journey of real estate, and it talks all about these little ebbs and flows and observations of what year one in real estate looks like. And I walked in, I met the man. He was from Trinidad, very distinguished Century 21 broker, probably still in the business today. His name is Vernon Jobity. I had gone to school with Vernon's daughter. And so he comes in, he's like, okay, so, you're going to be in real estate. You want to be in real estate? And I'm like, oh, I'm already in results. Like, you just need to give me the path. I know the plan. It's like, oh, okay, here we are. And then they introduced me. I happened to be at the office when they were dialing for dollars. Back in the day, you pretty much had a
For
job.
that. Dialing for
Yes,
dollars. That's great.
dialing for dollars. Yes, and you remember that you'll appreciate this because it was the old school Bowers Henderson directories. You had to go to the photocopier and make your call sheets on the streets that you were going to dial that night. Anyway, so his staff had come in to make their evening calls, 7 to 9. And so he was able to take me out into the bullpen. There was no such thing as private offices or a genius bar, and introduced me. And half the office was West Indian from Trinidad Tobago, because he was. And the other half well, almost everybody in that particular office was old enough to be my young grandparent or
Right.
older parent.
Yeah.
I'm a kid, and I go one by one down, and I'm shaking hands with these professional realtors. And right in the back corner was a woman by the name of Merle Donowa, and her name was on everything at the front. So every award, top salesperson for April, for May, for the year, for the last decade, was Merle Donowa. She was the queen bee. So when I get to Merle, I put my hand out and I say, "Hey, Merle, nice to meet you. Good to see, great to see that there's some competition in the office." The broker of record just about died. He pushed me out of the way. We didn't meet any more people after that. He went into his office, and as he was kind of trying to console himself, putting his hands on his face, he said, "Mr. James, if you are half as good as you are egotistical, you will make a fortune in this business." And that was
That's
43
great.
years ago.
There's so many great
So,
things there. I mean, the persistence right from the beginning, like you said, that is absolutely so necessary in our business. The if you want to say, I don't want to call it an inflated ego, but you've got to have
well, it
that
was.
confidence. You've got to have this unbelievable confidence to overcome these unbelievable challenges in these markets. Those take a hit over the years and become a little more humbling as it goes on, but you need it to sort of insulate you from the hits. And another thing that I think is so awesome about your origin story, if you will, is at our Canadian conference at EXP downtown. We had Chris Hatfield come talk to us, and
There
Chris
you go.
Hatfield answered an ad in the paper for an astronaut. So you and Chris Hatfield, probably at the same time, probably the same Toronto paper, our Canadian paper, looking, he's answering astronaut, you're answering real estate agent. So that is just so brilliant.
Yeah,
Can
it
you tell
was. It was a long time ago.
Can you tell us a little bit? I mean, you've been through, as we said in the green room, if you will, that you are the Frank Sinatra song personified. You've been up and down and over and out, pawn and a king. Can you help real estate agents and mortgage brokers at this pivotal point in time where we've seen, last year was like one of the toughest years in real estate in 30 years. So we're really trying to boost the morale of agents. We had 45,000 agents leave the Toronto area or part of the Toronto Real Estate Board from 90,000 in 2022. What gold nuggets can you give realtors and mortgage brokers in these times?
Hmm. 2020, so COVID's years at this point, realtors accidentally were ready for yes. They were ready for yes. Hey, you thinking of buying or selling? Yes, I am. Wow. And it worked. And interestingly enough, if we look back at the difference between COVID's years and last year, what was the difference? For me, because I was very active coaching, I was coaching 30 hours a week, which, if you understand, a college professor only can teach legally through their union 16 hours a week. So I'm absolutely knee deep in a lot of different performing realtors' plans. Like I'm right at the table as they're steering the ship into success, which is awesome. I've met and worked with some amazing people, learned as much from them as I dispensed back to them. But one of the things that was really critical to me was if you were a realtor, if you were a citizen in the country of Canada, you couldn't go anywhere. Real estate agents were fortunate enough to be an essential service so that they could still work. So, depending on what their life was like, good, bad, or indifferent before COVID, right, their only outlet was work. They could legally be out. They could drive their car. They could be seen out. They didn't get an $872 ticket because they were realtors. They had letters at this point from brokers that said, I'm allowed to be here. So, what did they do? That's all they did was focused on being a realtor, working with their buyers, working with their sellers. That's all they could do. They couldn't go visit with friends and family. They didn't kind of have Sunday dinners. They didn't kind of go on holiday. They didn't kind of go to the mall to try to blow their commission checks. They couldn't. There
Right.
was no place to go. I could only go home, sleep, eat, and go back to work. Look what happened when you focused 18 of 24 hours a day for 2 years on your business. How many people made money? Well, pretty much everybody.
Yeah.
Like if you didn't make money, if you didn't have your best years ever in 2020, 2021, 2022, you didn't have your hand up
Yeah. Agreed.
because so many people had personal bests by the week, by the month, by the quarter. So what happened? 2023, we get our life back. We can visit, we can mess around, we can take days off. We don't have to be as focused at this point, right? We don't have to work as hard because we're making enough at this point until we weren't. And then all of a sudden it's like, what happened? What happened was things changed. Your focus changed. When you focused on a holistic approach to your life versus one singularity just for business, right? That's what changed your income. You weren't as focused as you were in 2020 to 2022. So that's what happened to your income. That's what happened to people who were leaving. Again, the craziness of our associations and its leadership, or I'm going to chew my tongue here a little bit at this point in time, their new age version of leadership isn't necessarily conducive to everybody. There's a big reason why the exoduses are happening. Leadership has a lot to do with it. People don't leave because of numbers and math. They leave because of leadership. So if there's been an exodus in the board system or a collapse of it, please look at your leadership. Sorry, that's where it starts. So, truly what I see now is trying to get people to kind of go back into that focus place.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are resenting it. Hey, you really should be doing this, at least 10 hours a day if you're a professional realtor. 12 is better. They want to give it 2. I'm sorry, Selling Sunset is a fake reality show. You
Yes.
can't work and make millions of dollars in an hour and a half plus commercials.
Yeah.
Like, you can't. So that's what I see.
Yeah. And I remember my uncle, who's a doctor, and he was an Ontario coroner. And at that time, House was big, that show. And I'd say to him, don't you love these medical shows? And he's like, no, you know, this is not how this works. We don't figure these things out in an afternoon or sometimes even a week. This is just not real. And he was like, this is like garbage, kind of like, and
Yeah.
that's what those real estate shows are. They're
Yeah.
a fabricated version of what life is in real estate. It's not real.
Well, it was wonderful fodder. I question how much of it was used in evidence in the recent NAR case where the public were, hey, realtors double-ended and double-dipped a lot of properties and we want our money back. And even the prearranged amount of money that they are told that they're going to get as a result of winning a lawsuit, the public is going, not enough. Dig deeper, reach deeper. We want more compensation. So we did a really great job of telling everybody how much money we make, and now we're being called on the carpet to give it back.
Mm.
Cool. Or not. We're the only industry that comes out in our underwear at this point in time and shows and tells people how much money we made. Right? Dentists don't come out kind of going, had a banner year, made stupid money. Look at the boat. Look at the boat. Look at that. Thank you very much. That's a lot of teeth.
I want
Yeah.
to see the lawyers in their underwear. Sorry,
That's it. Right? We do it. We poke ourselves in the eye. I have a pet peeve with sold over ask. What does that explain? And the absolute goofiness of it at this point in time. I've seen people reduce the property, $100,000, get $1 more than that, and say, "Oh, sold over ask." Yeah, that's what happens when you reduce it by $100,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got $1 more than you were expected, so that way you can call it, "I sold it over ask." Nobody cares. It's so old and cliche. Please stop doing that.
Yeah.
So
Agreed. The cheese.
yeah,
The cheese of our industry, it's one of those things, and as we were talking before, um you've seen so much in 4 decades of real estate. And I was saying, I've been in the financial services industry for the last 18 years. I've been in real estate as a full-time broker in the Toronto area for 13 years and a former managing broker for Century 21 for 6 years. So I was trained by the old school masters, and yet I'm with the young guns and the social media masters of today and the global real estate company today. But there's a synergy between sort of the old school and the new school, and as that sort of I like to broker it myself, take the best from both of these worlds, because that's what it requires. I mean, I think that's what actual evolution requires of us, is to take the best of what we've learned, and to take the best of the new things that are happening, and mash them together in some sort of synergy to move forward, in hopefully a better way that we've learned from things. And one of the great things that you were saying is that you've made mistakes and along the way, but you've learned from them, and that's what you share. Can you talk a little bit more about some of those great lessons that you've learned along the way?
Well, I can tell you, day one real estate for me, March 10th, 1982. I was, into an office and into an office meeting. I watched. I'll share the meeting. I'll share the results of a day in the life of, a brand new agent, March 10th, 1982. So the first meeting we walked in, sales managers, we all turn our chairs around because it's a bullpen. There's no offices. The manager is standing up front and he's learning us up on what's going on in real estate. And I still use this today. He had his hand up like this and he was pulling on his thumb and he said, "You guys focus on the deal. You focus on the buy or the sell. The challenge is it's part of a branch. There are four more pieces of business to that. It's like a grapevine, right? And here's the thing, you're so excited and so focused on just taking this piece that you let these four other pieces of business that belong to you, belong to the branch, you just let them die. Stop doing that, right? You've heard people say, well, you have to ask for referrals during the process or subsequently after the process. Why? You have to be able to do that. There's four other pieces of business here. You've actually impressed somebody that you helped them sell or buy a piece of real estate. Why did you leave the other four deals that belong to the branch on the ground? You're not looking at leveraging the work you've put in. And if you think about it, what it costs today, on average, there's $3,500 to $5,000 worth of expenses to take a listing on, whether it sells or whether it doesn't. You're investing in this situation, and there was four more pieces of business that you could have leveraged that $5,000 across. You didn't. Why didn't you? Deals from the teams that are actually doing 10, 20, 30 deals a month, they get them, it's like it's the boxing thing. It's punches and bunches. They get them as a cluster, not at a one at a time. So
Mhm.
is your business based on a one at a time basis? You better have, pack a lunch. You're going to need it, right? Or can it be clustered? I guarantee it can if you know where to look. So anyway, so that's what he said. Then we went on the caravan tours because we used to do that situation. We used to go see and preview inventory, so we knew what the hell we were talking about. We knew something about the listing as opposed to today because it's on a sheet that I never read. Oh, it's on my iPad. Great. How old is the roof? There's not a little box for that on Treb. Well, no, there's not. You have to know something about the property itself. The language of realtors knowing what the property has, what it offers, what it, how to actually sell a house. Nobody knows how to do that. I ask agents all the time, who showed you how to properly show a house, how to properly present a home for sale, right? Or do you just do what you see on the TV shows? This is the kitchen, this is the living room. Oh, kitchen. Who would have guessed where the fridge and stove are that that's called the kitchen? Thank you for the education. And then, later in that first day, we started kind of looking at what's next. And I'm showing how to use the phone system. We had a computer, which was literally a typewriter with a squeeze in modem that did woo, woo, and it was, newsprint paper. I was there the first day we had the computer in, and it just
Matrix.
gave you a line. Yes, yeah, the matrix printers at this point, the daisy wheels, and it literally just had one line of text. It was like a teletype. It just basically said, here's the MLS number, here's the address, here's the price, and here's the broker of record. Or it would just give you the phone number, and you had to know that 795-7000 was the local Royal LePage office or whatever the case may be. So that was it. And then I'm like, okay, so what do we do? They're like, oh no, no, you're here with us until dinner. You get an hour for dinner. Then you're going to come back and dial for dollars. You're going to make make the phone calls. I'll get there in a second. So in the afternoon, what they did was they gave me a typed out scenario. Right, this is the couple. This is what they want to do. This is what they want to buy, etc. You need to prepare an offer from scratch for them on this property. So here's the clients. Here's the scenario. Here's the seller information. They gave me a blank offer and a pen, and I was to create the offer from scratch. That also meant all of the clauses,
Nice.
right? Buyer, agrees to pay a further sum of, and they better be in the right order, and you better have the right language, and that condition better meet its 5 characteristics it requires at this point so that you can move forward. I had to handwrite the offer and clause. Guess what? I did that for the first 2 weeks I was there. In the afternoons, that was my job, was to create offers from scenarios that they had, and I had to build out the offer by hand.
Wow.
If
That's
you look at offers that come in today, all I hear on these chat boards at this point is how bad these offers are crafted and delivered at this point. And you kind of go, it's cut and paste, for Christ's sakes. Did you guys miss a memo? Like, really, it's not that hard. And they're terribly written, and they're terribly actually scripted at this point to kind of go, did you really mean to do this? Because you've just thrown your buyer under the bus. Like, I will do it, but I just wanted to know if it was done on purpose, because they don't know.
And lots of times they
Like,
haven't read it. I've read Schedule A's where I'm like, did you read this?
well, if you look at it and you say, how many clauses are in a standard APS? This is a good question, Nicole. Do you know? I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you know how many clauses or how many pre-printed items there are on an APS? What's your guess?
27?
Oh, so close. 28. I'm going to give it to you. That's a mulligan right there. But here's the thing. What's clause number 13? Right? It's like people go, you have.
A Eufy clause.
That's exactly what it is. Oh, look at you. Wow, well done. Holy shit.
For me.
If this was a test and we had this on a poll, there'd be a lot of failure. It was interesting. A couple of years back before COVID, they did at Realtor Quest, they did a Jeopardy program. And they had 3 realtors come up, and they had a kind of Alex Trebek person kind of asking them real estate questions, and they were playing for prizes for a charity or whatever the case is. Well, the guy playing Alex Trebek happened to be a friend of mine at this point, not a realtor, and he's just reading off these cue cards at this point for these realtors to answer. So they go through round 1, and then Treb had to scramble because nobody was getting the answers. And we're talking about, please spell, tell us what TREB stands for. Nope, nobody knew.
Oh my God.
They failed so miserably. They were finally kind of going, how many letters in realtor? Like, they had to change the questions on the fly because realtors sucked terribly at answering basic questions about their craft.
Oh my.
So, do I have a nugget of wisdom? No, you're shit, for Christ's sakes. I mean, YouTube is filled with great wisdom from people like you, Nicole, who actually kind of give them the answers. You want the cheat sheet? Listen to some of the people out there willing to give you the benefit of their wisdom. It's not in short supply. As a matter of fact, we're saturated by it. Listen to it all. You'll start to figure out who's really good and who you should just stay away from. But there's a lot of information. You just don't care enough to kind of learn it. Please care.
Don't have that pride in their craft anymore. And I think this is twofold. So we came up in an era with old school brokers who demanded this sort of level of excellence and understanding of our contracts, of how the real estate transaction. I would say the first 6 years of my career were not only about, because I became a managing broker during that period of time as well. It wasn't just about, it was the real estate transaction. It was about teaching the staff how to manage the real estate transaction. I ran a branch administrator and 10 support staff who were writing offers for agents. As the managing broker, I was responsible for looking over every deal to make sure, because as a broker, we were liable. I was still part of a generation at that point, which was a dying generation, unfortunately, of brokers who took time to train their agents and demanded, because of their liability, that they be responsible agents. And you would get like scolded if you, like in an old school way, if you didn't know your stuff, or if you were putting the brokerage at liability, because that had a huge price tag on it. So, I spent that 6 year period of time doing that, opposed to now where I feel like I've spent many years now in the marketing world. And I was like, hey man, there's no real estate in this marketing world. Thank God I had real estate before, because now I'm learning social media and marketing and influencing, which is an absolute necessary part of a modern business that you want to scale and survive long term in real estate. It is absolutely necessary, but you can't tail off the actual meat and potatoes of our business. And I think one of the issues here is that the margins for brokers got so small and continues to get so small in their businesses, and their liability became so huge that it created a bad business model for broker owners. And as a
Mhm.
result, it's created a negative impact on the quality of agents. This is why people like you and business coaches have flourished, and they need to flourish, because you're taking the place of business, those broker owners, those old school broker owners who used to do that for people. And I think that EXP has a fantastic global model where we have a structure where you have such high level producers who have the proper motivation, because they receive a residual from people and they don't have the liability, that they can just aggressively pour the things that are working in their businesses into people below them and into their downlines, in a way that makes financial sense, but also it makes them altruistic. So we're back on point in having it make financial sense, but also, if you want to say, professional integrity sense. So I really see that parallel between EXP and the business coaches at this point. But I, as a former managing broker and from the broker world, I feel sorry for the brokers. I actually, it's one of my missions to save the brokers, if they'll be saved, because those old school brokers.
Well,
Tough
truthfully,
ones to save.
I don't know that a new school broker would survive in old school worlds, and I don't think an old school broker would survive in today's world. Um, you know, there are things that we did in the old school. Like if you weren't in the office, if you weren't sweating over a shovel, or your broker record couldn't see you sweat over a shovel, you weren't working. Well, today I can see people that can do their job in about 2 hours online on their phone, right? And be equally as effective as somebody who's 8 hours in an office, just so they could be seen. Now, it doesn't mean there's more right. It doesn't mean that this is better than that. It just means that there is now more choice and option on achieving, your ultimate goal. The challenge is, that's universal, is the accountability, right? You can do your entire job in 2 hours on your phone. Cool. You better show me. I need some kind of tick sheet that says, this is what I did. This is who I spoke to. This is what this is going to result in, right? Because if I'm going to give you the pass out of the office, if you're going to kind of, have school outside on the lawn, you still have to be accountable to the homework.
Absolutely.
So, and the reality is that part of that situation is, right, we have moved away. So yes, there are conferences all over. However, there's not networking the way we used to have. So this peer-to-peer fireside chats, this, let's talk about hacks, not on a Facebook page, but in real life. This is where you get the story. Nicole's working on a deal and it's got, this is the other side, or this is the hiccup, or this is the, what's happening. A group of realtors, all of us are smarter than one of us. That's
Yes.
where you kick it around and kind of go, hey, how about this? Have you tried this? Have you thought of this? Does your client do this? Have you talked to the other side and asked them about this? Right? That's where we have the learning.
The
We've
synergy.
lost a lot of that, through COVID. We tucked in. Like we weren't allowed to go out and kind of play with our friends. Now we are, and we don't.
Mhm.
So, but the old world broker, in many cases, I miss them, incredibly, obviously, because that's where I was raised. But the situation is that They understood that this is a business. They understood it was a job. They understood that it was, I mean, we were 9 to 9. Those were the hours of operation, Monday to Thursday. Friday was till 5, Saturday was till 5, Sunday was the Lord's Day act, so nobody worked on Sunday. There was a day of rest, right? Again, that's something that's, not even, thought of in today's real estate world. It's just another day of work. So when you look at this, you kind of go, what do you mean 9 to 9, Monday to Thursday? We were like an auto dealership. You had to come in, right? And inside of that 9 to 9, Monday to Thursday, you also had a specific duty time where you sat in for 4 hours at a time, right? You were responsible for all of the calls. So if there were inbound sign calls, inquiry calls on listings or working with a buyer agent at this point, you took those calls. You had to kind of be there for your duty time. Missing it meant, oh my God, you were off the roster. And if you had to miss it for whatever reason, then you had to assign it to somebody else. Like you ran a business inside a business with a broker of record who was a boss. You were accountable to them. I got myself and my work colleague at this point, who was my mentor. We started at the same time, but he was 10 years older than me. And we hacked around. We goofed around in the office, just like every other office out there. If you've seen The Office with Steve Carell, we did those goofy things. We had paperclip fights. Like we would, tape down the buttons on your phone.
Or whatever.
Yeah. We did stupid things, but we also got suspended where we couldn't come into the office, right? It was like, okay, you got a 2-day suspension, right? And today you would be laughed at. If you went in, if I'm a broker of record and I say, hey, Nicole, this was conduct unbecoming, you can't come into the office for 2 days. It's like, I wasn't planning on it anyway. I don't work from here. My office is in my home. I don't come to this office, right? So you suspending me. What are you, suspending me from my house? Right? Can't do that. So the reality is that it was a business. We ran it like a business. We had accountability like it was a business, like a job, right? But we did really, really well. We did a lot better financially because we were dedicated and focused on actually running and building a real estate career, as opposed to just dicking around, kind of going, I got no leads, right? This gentleman that I told you about that was 10 years my senior, who became my mentor, he was the focus of a lot of my book at this point called Opening Doors. And one of the things that this man said to me on the regular was, what do you see? We would go anywhere, everywhere, and he'd say, what do you see? We would pull up to a house because we were going to show it. We were going to show one house at this point. So we'd pull up a couple of minutes early at this point. We're in front of the sign, and he'd say, what do you see? What do you mean, what do I see? He's like, what are the other properties that are for sale or sold in this neighborhood? I'm like, I don't know. There was no, phones and email at that time. So I'm like, I don't know. He said, well, then you should be asking me to drive around so we're familiar with the other properties. So at least we have an address if we can go and source it and find out what it's sold for or what it's for sale for, because you know that the client's already been here for 40 minutes and they've driven around and they're going to ask us, even though we're only going to show this house, all about those houses. You need to know. Where's the bus stop? I don't know. Where's the French immersion school? I don't know, right? Which bus do I take to get down to the Bramalea City Center? I don't know. And so, again, I didn't have access to a phone to pull up the bus, Brampton bus terminal schedule. I didn't know which bus went where. I didn't know what the catchment situation was for schools. Guess who never forgot that lesson? Me. Yeah. So when you take a listing, if you've got a listing and I'm working with you or I'm coaching you and you have one in a new condo building at this point, you better be ready for, Ronn's 20 questions, Nicole, and I'll guarantee you probably can't answer 15 of them, right?
I'm a good
Who built it?
Ron. Maybe me.
There you go. Yeah. But my point is, when I'm starting to ask questions, how many units per floor? Do all floors have the equal amount of units at this point, right? What's the status on having a branded vehicle or a propane vehicle underground? And you're like, I don't know. Listen, guys, seriously, they're paying you a stupid amount of money. You should know.
Figure it out. That's your job.
And how do you compare? What's your square foot cost compared to the 3 comparable buildings in the property versus an old building, 20 years old, versus a brand new building? How do your comps stack up on $1 per square foot for your unit? How does it work when it comes to condo fees? These are answers you should have. What do you see? So like I said, that was never lost on me on what do you see?
Brilliant.
It was a matter of being spatially aware of where the property was, understanding it so I could actually sell it, not just show it. I don't get paid for showing houses. I certainly get paid for selling them.
Yeah. And
That's
know
part of the
your
selling.
stuff. You're the expert. Raising the level of discourse about what it is you're selling. 100%. You're not selling a pair of shoes. I mean, God loves shoes. I don't
Well,
want to denigrate
I
shoes, but you know,
it's funny that you bring that up. Again, a young guy, and one of the little kind of, networking sessions that I went to through Century 21, because I'm a Century 21-ite from the beginning as well. It was, mystery shopping. So one of the challenges that they put out, now again, I'm in my early 20s doing this. I go to my local mall because we were told to do this, and it was just to go into all of the retail stores and watch how they interacted with you. Because literally, a mall is like open houses on a retail level. So go mystery shop how people do open houses. So I walk into the shoe store, the Mahar shoe store, if you remember their name
I
at
do.
this point. And so what do? I do what everybody else does. I walk in at this point. Can I help you? No, just looking. And this young gal switched the conversation. Were you looking for, real leather or synthetic? Shit, now I got to think. Now I'm caught in my own lie. Like, still, I'm just looking, but I have no idea what the hell I'm looking for. So it was like, what's the difference? And she said, well, certainly style, fit, price will make a difference. Are you trying to stay within a budget? Like, she had me. I was hog-tied at the little foot measurer at this point
Awesome.
because
Good for
she
her.
was ready for my objection, and handled me like I was butter.
I love it. That's so
Yeah.
good. I
So
love
you
it when I
picked
run
on
into
shoes?
salespeople.
Yes. Well, and we are salespeople. Like, we love being sold. Realtors are the biggest suckers. I mean, look at everybody's closet, look at everybody's garage, look at everybody's shed. We have it all because somebody sold us. They got our number and we said yes. We were a yes before they even said how much.
Yeah.
So the reality of this, we love being sold. It's a craft that we're in. However, we really love when somebody is very good at what they do. They are ready for us, right? And we're trying to, on purpose, just to see how far we can poke the bear. And it's like, no, I'm going to give you my money because you were really, really good. So,
Yeah. You
are
got to
you
stick
really, really
around.
good? That's my nugget at this point. Are you ready? If I poked you at this point, are you really good at what you do? Can you really help me be, the best buyer's agent in Toronto, the best seller's agent in Toronto? How do you know? How do you know? How do you test that?
Yeah, work on your craft. 100%. You
Yep.
will get better results if you work on your craft and you know your stuff. It will show. People will recognize it one way or another that you know your stuff and that you're a person of value and quality, and that will attract a better client to you even, right?
And better referrals.
Yes.
Like, I will tell you, I'm quite centric right now. A lot of people in this kind of time in the month, like, so summertime is usually a little slow at that point. This year it just feels heavier because people haven't had a really great fall market. They were busy, but not productive, and certainly not profitable at this point. So it's like, okay, so what are you doing? And we're looking at things like databases, et cetera. I can't believe how few people or how many people have so few people on a database. It's kind of like, I have a number in my head. You need at least 100 people, to make $25,000. If you don't have 100 people, you can't make 25 grand. If you want to
I
make
love that.
125 grand,
I love that.
yeah, you
That
need
makes
500 people in database for 100 and a quarter, right? And that's, again, rule of thumb, and it's generalized, and I appreciate that. And it's, specific to your culture and your family and your friends and what you did before, et cetera. But as a rule of thumb, right, 100 people for $25,000 of revenue. So you scale it from there. You want, $250,000. Well, then you're going to need 1,000 people on a database. And that's the situation. That's where you look at it and go, okay, so I can do that through social media. Guys, here's the difference. 1,000 people in a database isn't 1,000 followers. Not the same.
no.
right? 1,000 people in my database. I have a name, address, telephone number. I know who you are, who your partner is. I know the name of your dog. 1,000 followers, you're just a blur. You're a blip on my social media screen. Equally as important. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being there. But you're not my CRM,
Right. And I
right?
agree. And I was always taught, and this is my old school days, that agents who had a proper listing presentation had a much higher close ratio. And people that high performers and high producers all used a CRM. And those things remain to be true.
The difference was if you were old school broker like I was, so again, right back to March 10th, 1982, when I first got to my desk where I was told I was going to sit and, go be profitable at this point in time, there was two things on my desk. Actually, the little side drawer, I opened it up and there was two items in the drawer. The first was a STP bumper sticker, right? So if you remember the oil company, STP, they had this oval looking silver, red, blue STP bumper sticker. So I have this in my hand and I have 12 recipe cards with an elastic band. And I'm holding them up, looking at my broker of record going, the hell do I do with this? So he said, okay, let's take the sticker, right? He said, peel the things off on the back. And we had this cork board in front of us and our little shelf for the phone book. At this point, he said, I want you to put the STP sticker right in the middle of that bulletin board. So it's eye level. I'm like, cool. And he tapped it and he said, hey, trying to get my finger up here, this is the secret to real estate. Okay, motor oil? Got it. Case of motor oil in the car. And he said, no, not motor oil. He said, read it to me. I'm like, what do you mean read it to you? It says STP. He said, that stands for something. What does it stand for in real estate? I'm like, I have no idea. He said, see the people. It's the magic formula. See the people. And again, I love the idea of where social media is that allows you to see me, right? But I like a little bit more tactical belly to belly at this point in time. If I can transfer social media where you know me or you think you do to a belly to belly, that's my win. So STP for the sticker, that was the first part. I'm holding the recipe cards. I have 12 of them. They're the 3x5 with the lines on them, etc. And I'm like, what the hell do I do with this? He goes, that's called your CRM. You write down on the top of each one of these particular cards the name of somebody that you know, their telephone number, you phone them every Monday. What do I talk about? I don't care what you talk about, just you make sure you talk to them.
Yeah.
Right. And I started looking around the office and we carried our entire database, if you will, in our jacket pocket. We had these recipe cards in the pocket. So I'm looking around the other agents, and there was about 17 of us in the office, and I'm seeing these little packages of these, cards, these recipe cards on their desks. Some of the people had these cool recipe card boxes. Some had them decorated, and the really cool kids had the color recipe cards.
Yes.
And I'm like, how come you have, red, blue, green, yellow? They said A's, B's, C's, D's. They had them in a way that they knew who their hot list was
Nice.
and who their cold list was. And they dialed accordingly.
Yeah.
So here we go. So the idea was if you could go back and actually have about 100 people on a database in 1982, you were doing pretty well. Today, I just said to you, right? You want to make $250,000 a year, you need at least 1,000-person database. You need more because you need to shoot wider. You need to throw the net wider to attract what you were able to do once upon a time with fewer people.
Yes.
And the consistency of following up. Like literally, I could phone 12 people every Monday. And now you have the benefit. So Nicole, if I'm kind of calling you and it's kind of like we went to high school, we really didn't hang out at this point. I'm calling you every Monday, right? I'm selling Amway. Now today, what I can do to open a conversation instead of saying, hey, you're ready to buy, you ready to buy, you ready to buy? I can say, hey, Nicole, I saw, you and Dan took the girls out and you were in the pool over the weekend. It looks like you guys had a blast. Where were you that you had so much fun? I have social media to leverage an opener at this point in time so we can start building rapport. Not just, so you guys still thinking of buying or selling? I have something now that I can leverage, but am I doing it? I have so many people on a database that I kind of go, well, they'll call me if they want to, something. I don't want to bug anybody. Well, good, excellent. Don't worry about it then,
Don't
because
worry
you'll
about
never
making
sell
money
anything.
then.
Yeah, don't worry about your money,
Yeah.
right? Unfortunately, this is where Scotiabank lied. You aren't richer than you think. Not if you're not making dials for dollars. So it
See,
was a
that's the
situation.
old school mentality that you people need to hear, because it's that instant gratification. It's that, no, I don't want to call us old. Let's say we're experienced grinders, man. You got to show up. You got to shake your moneymaker. You got to get in people's faces. You got to smile. Like I say to my girls, you're never fully dressed without a smile. Like, who are you attracting without a smile on your face, right? My brother is a full-time comedian. Actually, he's a Juno nominee. And he'd say, before, and I'd say, oh my God, how do you go out and you talk to people or whatever? And I say, if we're not having a good time, what are we doing here? And I think that we have that in common as well, is that you've got to have a great sense of humor and have a good time and what you're doing, and bring that energy to the table with your grinding.
Yeah,
Right? Like,
yeah.
fooling around with your friends and doing some stuff, but you were working and you were having a good time.
We did, and truthfully, my first year in the business, working with this mentor, and like I said, he was only like he had started in December, just before me. I started in March, and but he was 10 years older than me, so that certainly had more life experience, and he had sold wood products, lumber, over the phone, which was an incredibly hard thing to do at this point. So he brought that transferable skill into the real estate business. He was the one that identified a market opportunity. He was the one that could look at a marketplace and look at a detailed SWOT analysis. We didn't call it that. He didn't call it that. He didn't know what he was actually doing with it. He was just innately looking at market opportunity and where he could make a buck, right? He came out of selling wood over the phone. That's his whole business, was his angle. What was my angle? So one of the things that he found back in the day, in early 82, at this point, was CMHC, Canada Mortgage and Housing, was its own real estate company. It was swamped with inventory of people who mailed in their keys. Like, they all defaulted on mortgages, and guess who the landlord was? It was Canada Mortgage and Housing. They were also a real estate broker, so they paid you a 5% commission for bringing an offer in on one of their units.
Nice.
And it was an open listing. It meant that all of the agents in our market area, if there was, Brampton properties, every Brampton agent had the opportunity to bring in an offer on any of this inventory. We made a business of it. We actually stayed vertical right in that space. So every deal we did, even though we split it, it was like double ending. He got a full portion, 2.5%. I got a full portion, 2.5%.
Nice.
And we made a lot of money in a very short period of time because we understood the process. We understood the opportunity, right? We certainly leveraged the market to our benefit in many cases at this point, because we had such a great rapport with the people at CMHC. So when we brought in an offer, they would kind of go, okay, no messing around. This is what we need. You got to go back and get this done. Here's the numbers. Don't come play games with us. This is what we need.
Yeah.
So we would just go back and we'd work on our buyer and say, if you want to buy it, this is what's going to do it. I've cut through all of the chaff. You can't be clever. This is what they want if you want to buy it.
Yeah.
And we started pushing the envelope. We started getting things done. We got appliance packages, first 2, then 4. We got it painted top to bottom. We had it re-broadloom top to bottom. We had them buying down interest rates, right? They would put,
Nice.
do
Buy downs. I like
a
it.
buy down of 3%. Like, when all of a sudden I can offer you an 11% mortgage off of a 14%, street rate. At this point, we win. We leveraged the crap out of selling CMHC properties. I mean, we weren't alone. I'm sure there was a lot of other people that, found the secret too, but it was our bread and butter.
Nice.
Right. And it really, working with somebody like that as a mentor, right? There was somebody that could opportunity spot. He could SWOT analysis. What's the strength in the market? What's the weakness in the market? What's the opportunity? What's the threat? Right? Everybody knows the acronym at this point in time. I only changed one letter. So yes, S is for strength, but for me, I don't use W as a weakness. I use it as working on. There's an old adage, by the time my competitor realizes my weaknesses, I've turned them into strengths.
Right. Sung Tzu,
Yeah, there we go.
right? The art of war. You know,
The art of war.
I am not
Yeah.
small. I am stealth. I am,
Yeah, I'm going to use that. At 5'6", I'm stealth. Yeah.
Well, that's it. I'm small yet mighty. So, you know, but that a lot of sales is that, right? Repositioning. A lot of life is that as well. When you talk about mindset is, okay, what is, and I got this from my girls at school and the way they position things to them. What's your glow and what's your grow? And there's always a glow and a grow. And your grow is something that you're going to take and it's going to be your glow next time. This is
Mm-hmm.
how we evolve. This is how we sort of become stronger. But these are definitely markets for these ideas and these mentalities. And the idea that you're talking about the business that you made with your mentor and one of your friends with CMHC in such tough markets. I mean, people were mailing in their keys in the 80s because interest rates had hit the roof. People were having a hard time selling anything. And you're talking about how you, with a partner, thrived in a niche market.
Mm-hmm.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
I love that, Ron.
Yeah.
That's why you're the
Oh,
man.
wait.
They're the legend. That is so cool.
Well, I was the student that lived long enough to share the story with you. That's pretty much what it was. I mean, did I have all of this as a scientific plan? Was I swish and cool? Nope. Not anywhere near as swish and cool as I thought I was at this point. However, looking back at, what did I learn? What was my best takeaways from that? Yeah, I had some stuff that were brilliant moves. And it's interesting when I see somebody kind of say, hey, look what we just invented. It's like, oh shit, like this is the third year, this is the third time there's been an alliteration of that. You are not the originator. You're not the first. Here's the first version. Here's the second. Here's the third. You're on the number 4. And yours includes a Facebook page. Okay, cool. But the reality is it's not brand new. Please, there's nothing brand new in real estate. Right? You haven't done enough history to know where we should be looking forward. Right? Like if you've been in the business a very short period of time, dig deep. Go find some old guy like me at this point sitting in the bar. Okay, kid, stick with me. I'll show you the ropes.
I love
There's
it.
some wisdom there. There's wisdom.
That's so good. So tell us about your coaching business, where people can follow you. You are absolutely an inspiration. I know that you're doing 30 hours of coaching. So if you've got time in your roster, where can people follow you and get in contact with you?
Yeah, I've been blessed. I have worked with some professional coaching companies. I'm still affiliated with one now. My direct line, 289-242-9050 is my phone number. Ronn James plus the truth, all spelled out lowercase. Ron has 2 N's in it at gmail.com. And at that point, if you're interested in discussing what coaching looks like on an organized basis, you want something weekly or biweekly or whatever, by all means, I will chat with the company at this point and we will get you set up where you need to be with the person that can serve your needs the best.
I love that. So what we're going to do too is I'm going to make sure that I have all of Ron's contact information on all the social media marketing that goes out for this podcast. So if you want to get in touch with Ron, and you absolutely do, because he's the man, the myth, the legend, and he's the one that can help you find the hidden truth in your business and to help you through some of these turbulent markets with some fantastic gold nuggets that will keep you going to what we hope to be a wonderful, prosperous year in going into 2025. Thank you so much, Ron, for your time and your experience and just all the gold nuggets today.
Well, thank you for having me. I've had a blast. Thank you.